I have the pleasure of being able to serve as the moderator and interviewer of Chu Dongmei, who has come over from Beijing to be part of this. And I thought I would begin by asking her a few questions to draw her out about the One Belt, One Road, the theme of the session, and also to get her talk about some other things that she is very expert in, including Chinese relations with Russia, which I know is of interest to many people as well. So I wondered if you could begin, Dongmei, by talking just very briefly what is the main goal of One Belt, One Road? What is it exactly as a policy, if you could describe it briefly?
Okay, thank you, Jeff. The One Belt, One Road. It's a Chinese initiative. I think many people talk about it's like a strategy, but I think it's an initiative of cooperation. And why China's government prove this initiative? I think. The main goal will remain in the two contents, and one is the within countries policy. You know, there's a big gap in China that every region develop imbalanced, and there's a big threat to the economical security of China, and Russia and China want to integrate the regional economy in the country first, and the other hand, it's about the foreign policy. Foreign policy that China want to be strengthen the economic connections with neighboring countries, and the One Belt, One Road have two roads in land and in the sea. In land called the New Silk Road Economic Belt, and it will connect China to the Europe and through the region of Central Asia and West Asia. All might be China to Mongolia and to Russia and to the Europe, and in the sea, it will link China to Southeast Asia, South Asia, and to Africa and to Europe too. And the main policy priority are the policy coordination and facilitate connectivity, and also trade and investment in infrastructure, also cultural exchange.
So some of the idea of this is to play on historical ideas of China being connected to other parts of the world via the Silk Road, or also via maritime trade. In what way do you think this is simply continuing things that were already relationships that China had, or what are the things that are particularly new about the initiative? China has been trading with its neighbors, so what do you think is most distinctively new about what's going on right now with this initiative?
Yes, the One Belt, One Road, the initiative is not the totally new foreign policy. It's just extend our China's formal foreign policy to a new level, because the economical connection between China and other countries are already existent, but in this time when China very want to develop his economy, and China think he'll need more security in the outside, but around around China, there's Central Asia, which region has a poor security and a big threat of terrorism, and there has Southeast Asian, and many people have territorial dispute with China, and China want to in the way of develop economical cooperation to maybe to ease this distribution, and maybe partly or mostly solve these problems.
So your own specialty is Chinese-Russian relations. And Dongmei said that she's presenting very nicely in English that English is not her best second language. Her second language is Russian. So English is her third language. So I'm very impressed to have somebody speaking in a third language in a public setting like this. So I wondered if you could talk about, obviously, with dealings with Central Asian republics, this will be potential for competition or tension with Moscow. But at the moment, relations between Moscow and Beijing are quite good. Could you talk a little bit about how Putin is viewed in China and how Putin has viewed China? First of all, how is Putin viewed in China by many people, do you think?
You mean Russian people?
No, what is the Chinese people's attitude toward Putin? He doesn't have a very good reputation in America.
But in China, Mr. Putin just like a famous movie star because he has many advertising in China, the muscles, and he can he can play with the flights, and he can shoot, and he protect the woman and tiger. And in my own opinion, because my major is the Russian study, I think Putin is a hero for Russian state because you know, after the collapse of Soviet Union, the Russian faced a big disaster, Russia wants to develop just as Western countries, but he has a so strong cultural root and have no atmosphere for the democracy. So it's just a disaster for him. But Putin make everything go. Not everything. Economy he did bad, but in the political he had a very stable governance, and people can live like a normal life. But the economy, he didn't know about the economy, and when the international oil price are very high, Putin lost a very good chance to change their economic structure. So after the Ukraine crisis, and the Western country and U.S. give Russia a big political stress, and didn't give him the technology and fund that very need Russians. So Russia's economy is very bad now.
So do you have a sense of, has Putin's attitude toward China been the same? Has he had the same kind of attitude toward China? Switching it to, how does Putin view China, do you think?
About this, I think Putin look at China maybe the same way, because last year Russia and China's government signed an agreement about our relations. It's called comprehensive strategic partner, and and they think the relation already developed to a new level, and the one statement is that the two countries will accept that each country have their own way to development. So I think Russia will understand.
So I'm a historian, so I have to think it's very funny that relations between Beijing and Moscow are now much better than they were when both countries were run by communist parties. Is that something you find funny?
Yeah, yes, it is. I think the Russian-China relation is a very interesting. It's a very interesting history in the in the world. Maybe many Chinese scholars said that today's relation between our two countries are the most favorable period. But I don't think so, because in the Soviet time, Soviet Union and China experienced a honeymoon time. So honeymoon time is the most favorable relation between countries. But now we are not in the honeymoon. But after
maybe a second marriage.
Maybe it could be, but about the China-Russian relations, many people, many ordinary people and scholars are very interested in it, and one people. Some people think that take a positive attitude, and the others take the negative attitude. But I think this time Russian and China's relation are the normal time, and in the Soviet time there's not the normal country's foreign policy, because we are China's foreign policy are totally depends on Soviet Union, and it's not normal. This time it is normal.
Okay, let's get some questions. I'm sure there'll be questions from the audience that can pick up on either of these kinds, any of the themes that have come up, or in another direction. Yes? And if you can briefly introduce yourself, that would be great.
Yeah, Jim McGregor from APCO in China. With the One Belt, One Road, especially going into Central Asia, China's now going into territory that's dangerous. You've got, you're building rail line through Pakistan. You're going into all the various stands that have their own way of doing things, and China's got a lot of problems with the Uyghurs. I mean, China could end up a lot like the United States now, with their workers being beheaded and people being kidnapped, and China might be getting into areas that China's used to having control. It's not going to have control in these countries, and I don't know if you can depend on those governments for control. In your experience, is the Chinese government, focusing on this? Are they aware of this, or are they just kind of running off because Xi Jinping decided he wanted to do this?
Thank you. It's very interesting. And I think the Central Asia country are like to have a cooperation, have the economical cooperation with China, because of course Central Asia's country have the multi foreign policy to balancing the superpowers in the world, and they often have to choose between Russia, America, and China. But within time, Central Asia's country are very like to have this kind kind of cooperation with China because China just want to this economic growth, and will not have the political claim or some district for foreign policy like Russian will put on the Central Asia countries.
And maybe not have the pressure to improve human rights conditions that would go with an American alliance, the other side, yeah.
Rafiq Dasani, the RAND Corporation. So at the heart of the Belt and Road Initiative are transport corridors that will connect either by rail or by road, as well as pipelines, electricity infrastructure. It will connect China, Russia, and the Central Asian countries. It seems that trade, the growth of trade will follow. The question I have is, China's had such a difficult time now managing the environmental and other sustainability aspects of its own manufacturing. Isn't there a risk that these problems will all now shift to Central Asia? And how is that going to be managed?
Yes, I think this year's China's investment in the Central Asia are growth, but China's economy has its own problem, and China used to just focus on GDP and not care about the environment. But now I think China's officials are changing his mind. So in this year's G20, China's Xi Jinping, President Xi Jinping will they send an statement about the green and sustainable economy and development, and maybe that will improve our future's way of development.
And then there's one more question here.
I have time for this last question, but we can make it quick, right?
Very quick, yeah.
Michael Warder, formerly Vice Chancellor at Pepperdine. Could you comment on the border between Russia and China, particularly related to Siberia? Are there many people informally crossing for trade, and do many actually move across the border? And then how are they treated? And could you just talk about that border situation between Siberia and China?
Just quickly, because we need to end.
Okay. Yes. The last month I went to the China-Russian border there, and there used to be many illegal immigrants from China to Russia, and maybe they'll trade many China's goods, and mostly are have a bad quality, but the things are changing now, and now many I think many companies and including the State Farm, they are going to the Siberia and the Far East, and they do some. I think the better changings. So the illegal immigration things are very few now.
Good. That's we have many more we could talk about, but thank you very much, and thank you, Dongmei, for doing this.
Thank you. Yeah.